Do the critics of Christian MGTOW have a valid argument? When I posted my earlier video entitled, "What is MGTOW? Definition and Summary," there were some comments below which were basically suggesting that Christianity is incompatible with MGTOW. And I started to think about that, and a lot of times in life, when we have an argument against someone, it's not that people are 100% wrong or 100% right. A lot of times, even if they're mostly wrong, they can still have some important aspects of a certain argument to consider. And that's what I want to do right here. If you look at what the Apostle Paul wrote in the New Testament, he said that as men, it's our responsibility to provide. He did say that. I can't deny that. As a Christian, I can't deny that he said that. He also said that a man who does not look after his own family is worse than an unbeliever. You can also look at where it says back in Genesis that it is not good for man to be alone. God said that. And that's why he ultimately created Eve, because according to God, it was better for Adam to have a companion. Then there's the concept of marriage, and marriage clearly is supported and upheld in the Bible. Jesus did his first miracle at the wedding of Cana, and there's several verses all throughout the Bible that talk about the sanctity of marriage, the fact that marriage symbolizes the relationship that Christ has with the church. Christ symbolizes the man, and the church symbolizes the woman. So how do we as MGTOW men that are Christian reconcile these seeming contradictions that, in all fairness, are brought up by the opposition? Even though I don't have all the answers, and this is a discussion as far as I'm concerned, I'm not lecturing anybody. I'm open to other people's opinions. But here's what I can say. The times that we're living in now are quite different than biblical times. And I'm not saying that to discredit the Bible. I'm not one of those people who's saying, well, the Bible's outdated and it's so old that it doesn't really apply anymore to us today. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that the structure of society largely has shifted away from being a patriarchy, as it was in ancient times, to being more matriarchal today. And along with this have come many laws that basically tie men's hands behind their back so that we don't have authority anymore. That was a key aspect of marriage in biblical times. A man had authority. He had authority over his wife, over his household, and his children. And we don't have that today. That's a huge problem. If you think about the symbol that I brought up before, where the Bible says that Christ represents the man and the church represents the woman, here's how the situation is set up today. If you were to continue using that analogy, you'd have the church basically imposing laws on God, on Christ, saying, okay, Christ, you have to provide this for me, you have to do this, you have to do that. Oh, and Christ, if you don't do that, then you're going to have to receive this punishment and you're going to have to do A, B, and C, right? That's how the situation is set up today. There's no authority in that. Christ has no authority in a setup like that, right? You know what's funny, as a little side note, after I said that, I just realized that that's how the church does operate today. You look at a lot of the mega churches, and that's what they do, especially like Joel Osteen and all these word of faith, prosperity gospel churches. That's what they do. They treat God like a little puppet. Oh, you pray to God, you say the right prayer, he's going to give you this, that, and the other thing. And it's basically a situation where we have put ourselves, I'm talking about the church has put itself over God as far as authority. And isn't it funny how that is paralleling the situation with marriage today? But I digress. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Does this mean that marriage should be entirely eliminated? I don't really know for sure. Remember that Paul said it's better if a man doesn't marry, but at the same time he did make allowances for those who did, and he said it's better to marry instead of burning with passion and not being able to control yourself. I wish I could go back in time and speak with Paul and see what he would say about our situation today. Think about this. If he was warning against marriage back in those times in a patriarchy, how much more would he be warning against it today? Right? But this still leaves us with the problem that it's not good for man to be alone. If we don't marry, then we are going to be largely by ourselves for most of our lives. And yes, I know that we talk about making sure that we have a good group of friends, and also that we are pursuing something meaningful, because when you're pursuing something meaningful, then you're less likely to be lonely. But guys, let's just be honest. When you are not with a woman, especially physically, there's always going to feel like a part of you is missing. It's just biology. And you're always going to have to deal with that. Anyway, the only reason I bring all this up is to show that there are some good arguments on the other side. And just out of respect, I want to acknowledge that nobody's got all the answers, guys. And this is why we are a evolving community. And I'm sure we will continue to discuss these things and find new answers and new ways of looking at them. That's all I have for today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already.